Hello everyone, my name is Sammy and I hope you're all doing well. And if you're not, I hope you fix that. Well, I'm gonna cut to the chase, get straight into the meat and potatoes of it all. I'd like to talk to you today about a recent film adaptation of a lovely novel entitled My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. And if you don't know who Grady Hendrix is, he is a prolific... Can we get a fact check? Because don't know if that's the right word. Cool. He is a prolific horror author. You may know some of his other novels such as Horror Store, Final Girl Support Group, We Sold Our Souls. There's another one that is like Southern Vampire's Guide to Slaying Vampires or something like that. But he is a phenomenal horror writer. I love the way he writes. I love the way he writes women and women friendships. I feel like it is very realistic and a very realistic portrayal. And that's what I'm gonna cover today because I love My Best Friend's Exorcism and the movie adaptation did not really hold up. I'm sorry to say. But the reason I love this book so much is because one of my best friends, not one of, my best friend of all time, her name is Sarah. She's beautiful, she is lovely, she's got big boobs, she's got a fat ass, she's a food scientist, she's a feminist, she's literally everything, and she's amazing. What the hell, she's awesome. Okay.
My point was, she introduced me to the book. That's literally it.
Now, I also want to shout out two TikTokers who- why am I slouching so much? Sorry about that. I also want to shout out two TikTokers. That's so stupid. Their names are Books with George and Tay Reads. And you can find their information down in the description. Give them a listen. They both make really great points about the film in comparison to the book. I'm gonna squeeze this in here too. I have a film degree. Wow. And I know that sounds really pretentious of me to say, but I have a film degree. So I'm not just talking out of my ass. I mean, like maybe in this video I am, but like I have some type of qualification to be talking and discussing movies. Cool? Now I can definitely do a more like in-depth version of dissecting the movie itself and less so comparing the movie to the book. I can do more of like a critic standpoint and less of vanity project, I guess, which is what I'll call this because that's essentially what it is. I'm not really putting any facts or anything into this. It's pretty much just my opinion. That is something to keep in mind. This is for fun. Please don't take my opinion seriously. I'm just a stupid girl. I'm not gonna put that in the video. Maybe, am I? I don't know. I don't need to self-deprecate myself anymore. Shane Dawson does enough for that on the internet. Let's get into it. I'm gonna be pretty ruthless with this movie review, but I don't wanna discredit the long time and effort that was put into making the movie. I can tell that there was a lot of love and heart put into it. I thought the lighting was phenomenal. I loved the lighting. I thought the acting was great, and I noticed that the main character, Abby, is played by Elsie Fisher, who is also the main character in Bo Burnham's film 8th Grade, which if you haven't checked that out, definitely do that. It is an amazing film. Now, with all that said, I don't know, I think I just wanted more from the movie in regards to what it took from the book and what it like kind of changed from the book. I didn't hate the changes from the book to the movie. First of all, I thought for what it's worth, they made sense connecting with each other. They played off of each other well. I guess what I'm trying to say is the scriptwriter did a good job at like writing a cohesive script. So maybe that's, I mean, like, you did your job. Good job. I'll give you a pat on the back for that. But my suspicions is that it just all stems from lackluster directing. And I don't mean to say that in, like, a mean way. I just really don't know anything about this director. So I don't know if they're prolific, if they're... I'm using that word so many times today. I don't know what it means. We'll see if I'm stupid with this fact checker that I'm bringing out. And by fact checker, I mean me going on Urban Dictionary. I also want to say that I'm not going to be giving a play-by-play of this movie. I'm literally just going to be picking at the parts of the movie that I want to. So, with that being said, I think I said this earlier, but spoilers ahead for the book and the movie. So, if you want to read the book, which I recommend you do, maybe pause the video, read the book, and then come back. Now, bitch, let me tell you. Oh my god, this movie, bitch. What the hell, you guys? Where do I start? The beginning, shall we? So we start out with a heavy dose of exposition, my favorite, and we hear Abby and Gretchen talk about how much they are best friends. Now, I don't know about you and your best friend, but I don't think anyone speaks like this. Am I right? I don't know. This dialogue is just a little bit weird. Now, I understand that this movie wanted to focus on the high school years because in the book it spans pretty much their entire friendship, like from 4th grade till death. And I get that you can't show every single piece of action in a 300-page book and replicate that into an hour-and-a-half movie, which which that's another thing. It was a 300-page book. You can make the movie 2 hours long. It's okay. And that's not to say I'm a fan of long movies. I don't really like long movies, but that's only because I feel like a lot of long movies are just pointless. They don't need to be long. I recently saw Elvis in theaters. Not recently, whenever it came out in theaters. It did not need to be 3 hours long. And they didn't even, it was just a bunch of montages. Okay, moving on. I need to see way more relationship building between the two girls because this short little phone call that they're on, it doesn't really cut it for me. I don't really talk to my friend saying, hey, you're my best friend. Remember when we did this 3 years ago? Such a great time, best friend. You're my best friend. I love you so much, best friend. Okay, bye, best friend. See you tomorrow, best friend. That's not how it works, right? Okay. There was virtually none, like no relationship building. And you know what? Am I comfortable being that mean? Yeah, I am. I don't really care. Okay, so yeah, there were really no relationships that were up to par that I could find in the movie versus the book. The book just had so much rich development between these two girls. And again, I get it. You can't shove all of that information into this movie because it is an hour and a half long. It is 90 minutes long. But I would like a little something. You can show two girls being friends without just a phone call, correct? Especially in the 80s. Show us some cool things that they do in the 80s. Show us going to their arcade. I don't know. What did kids in the 80s do? I was not born in the 80s. Can you tell? I'm so youthful. Going back into the book, more so the story aspect, I told you this was not going to be a play-by-play. I'm kind of going to go all over the place. So yeah, I just talked about the beginning of the movie, but now I'm moving on to Gretchen's parents. Keep up. I would say one of the freakiest parts of the novel for me was Gretchen's parents and how much they didn't know what was happening to their daughter. Gretchen's parents in the movie were definitely more caricature-like and less rooted in reality, when they were a huge part, if not the biggest part of the horrors in the book, at least for me, especially coming from someone who was a teenage girl. The actors who played the parents just played them so... they were like cartoon characters, like what I said earlier, and that just didn't really fit in with the rest of the movie. I don't know. Were they trying to go for like a more like tongue-in-cheek like comedy? Because that's not what was happening on screen. And I don't want to bash these actors. And if my sneaking suspicions of a bad director is true, then again, it's not the actor's fault because you can only do so much with what your director tells you to do. And that's a tip. If you ever see a movie with really bad acting when you expected it to be good acting, usually it's because it's a bad director. It's not the actor's fault. Perfect example of this, Elsie Fisher. She was not the best in this movie, but that's not her fault because have you seen her in 8th grade? She was amazing. So there's some give and take. Now back to this messy goop. Let's dive back in, shall we? I love tearing apart this movie. I want to dive into the friendship of the four girls. Abby, Gretchen, Margaret, and Glee. Now, in the movie, the downfall of the girls was just a blip on the radar, if you want to say. I wanted to see the turmoil that they were all going through. Again, they kind of took away the horror aspects. I wanted to see that huge tapeworm coming out of Margaret's esophagus. And we got that, but a horrible CGI version. Give me some practical effects, babe. This is a movie based in the 80s. They didn't have CGI back then, did they? No. They just relied on practical effects for the most part. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna do research, but that's what I'm gonna say. Why couldn't we have gone back to our 80s roots? That would have been really cool if you would have made the movie in an 80s retrospect. That's what the book was. If you look at the book, the cover of it looks like you bought it from a Blockbuster or a video store. It says, please be kind, rewind on it. There's a horror sticker on it, like you got it from a video store. That's very cool. I would have liked to see some of that transformed into this movie so it could have a little bit more depth instead of it just kind of being hollow. That's just what I got from it, was just like a hollow. I was knocking on this tree and nothing was coming back. There was no reverb. I was disappointed. But going back to the turmoil, I wanted to see those tapeworm eggs in Margaret's stomach, gurgling up there for weeks. She was drinking those smoothies or milkshakes, whatever they were, for weeks. And we didn't really see that. We didn't get a payoff. It was, oh, let me introduce, this is me being Gretchen. Let me introduce these tapeworms to Margaret, and then the next day she's gonna be sick in her bed throwing up tapeworms. There wasn't really enough like payoff for that. You know, I wish we had a little bit more build up. up. And kind of same with Glee. I think they handled Glee's situation a little bit better, I guess I could say. And this is one of the changes I was talking about at the beginning. In this version, since it's more of an ensemble piece amongst the four girls, yeah, it was kind of smart to change Glee thinking the letter was from Margaret instead of a teacher. Because in this case, it kind of tears the friend group apart versus just tearing Abby from Gretchen. I wish they just kept it between Abby and Gretchen. That would have made for a more concise story, a more accurate representation of the book, in my opinion. So that's just what I wish happened. Let's move on to the damn Lemon Brothers. I was sick, let me tell you. What the hell is this? I couldn't with their opening scene solely because of how much they made Gretchen look like a frozen inbred chihuahua staring at that cross. I get it, she's supposed to be possessed by a demon, but you guys didn't have to make her look like not the cross. What? Guys, what? That's not... I don't even know what to say at this point because it was simply ridiculous. I get what they were going for. I've seen The Conjuring. I get the thing with the demons and the crosses and how demons don't like crosses, but I feel like there was a lot more subtle ways of showing us that. Like maybe just like have her eyes roll back in her head, or maybe just have her like glare at the cross. Maybe not shake at it. I don't know, that just seemed kind of silly. Don't you think? Did no one laugh when you were filming that? Because if not, I think we need to reevaluate you guys' funny bones, because that was comic. What? That was comic? That was comedy, babe. Now, I know Christian Lemon, the youngest brother, is supposed to be somewhat of a comic relief in this. In the book, I would say he succeeded at that role. In the movie? Not so much, because there wasn't really a need for a comedic relief. Do you get what I'm saying? Because it wasn't really a horror. Cool. And I also just don't understand some of the changes they made to his character. They changed his obsession from corn dogs to frozen yogurt? Why? Just give my man his corn dog. I don't get it. Were they literally just trying to connect him and Abby a little bit more? Like to give him a little bit more purpose to do this? And they knew that Abby worked at a frozen yogurt shop? Why didn't you just change Abby's occupation to working at a corn dog place? I feel like that would have made more sense, right? I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that. And for the most part, I didn't really have a problem with the Christian character, except for his last scene, or one of his last scenes. And if you've seen the movie, I think you guys know what I'm gonna talk about. Now, to my knowledge, I don't remember there being a scene where Christian says he has mommy issues and his mom appears in the bedroom that the exorcism is happening. And obviously this is all in his mind. Gretchen is playing tricks on him. But did that happen in the book? I mean, I read the book a while ago, but not that long ago. I don't think that happened in the book. I literally burst out laughing when that happened on screen. Like, I literally could not stop laughing when I saw that. Because I'm like, is this... Okay, no, this is a comedy. They played this off as a horror, but it was a big prank on me. That was their joke. That was Amazon Prime's joke. They marketed it as a horror, but they were like, you know what? We're gonna tell everyone that it's a horror, but it's actually a comedy. Actually, you know what they did? This is what I think Amazon Prime did. This is what I think Prime Video did. Those sneaky bastards. I think that oh my god, where was I going with this?
I don't know where you were going with that, babes, but the movie was marketed as a comedy horror. So...
The scene where she bursts into flames on the bed was just, it took my breath away. It was so funny. I couldn't stop laughing. I just about passed out from laughing so hard because what the hell was that? Like, I feel like we don't get enough characteristics and like character development, like to care at all about Christian. I really didn't care about him. I solely thought his purpose was comedic relief. I didn't care whether he lived or died. And I thought that was the whole point of that. That's another thing. The CGI, as I said before with the tapeworm, was just so rough. I did not need to see a physical manifestation of this demon that was inside of Gretchen. It looked so cheesy. I think it took away all of the major impact that scene held. I don't know, guys. I think my main issue with the physical manifestation of the demon was it almost took all of the agency that Abby had in that scene away from her. Because if you don't know, this is the scene where Abby successfully exorcises Gretchen and gets the demon out. She doesn't do a typical exorcism though. She says things related to their friendship. So she's like, I compel you in the name of David Bowie. I don't know, guys. I don't know that many 80s references. But do you get my drift? That in the novel was very heartfelt, very touching, and I think that's what hit home for a lot of people, and that's why a lot of people love that book as much as they do. But I think that this took all of the agency out of it, because it almost made it seem like the demon didn't really care what Abby was saying. It was almost like he just kind of left because he felt like it was like, I've been in this body for long enough. It's time for me to go. It wasn't really anything that Abby did, which I wasn't a fan of. My favorite part of the book was their friendship, and that's what they took out of the movie. Cool. And I also thought the ending with the wrap-ups was just kind of stupid. Sorry, I said I was gonna be mean. For those of you who have made it this far into my video, and I have not read the book ends with Gretchen and Abby growing old together, and it's, like I said, very sweet and heartfelt and touching. And you really get a sense for how much they mean to each other. Whereas the end of the movie, you don't get the same wrap up. We got this unearned wrap up for everyone in the cast, or every major character that had a speaking role. Like, we got one for Gretchen's dad, and he was in like 5 minutes of the movie. I didn't really care that much about him. I didn't really care that much about him in the book. Yeah, I hated him and he was very freaky and creepy, but I didn't really care that much about him. So why did you think that you wanted to put a wrap up for his character in the movie? You could have just left it out. I don't know. Weird choices. But this is just a small tangent that I have. I hate when movies put little paragraphs on the screen for me to read. What did I watch the movie for? Why are you giving me a book to wrap it up? Finish writing the movie. Show me something. You know what I'm saying? You didn't do your job when you're wrapping it up at the end and you're writing on the screen, oh, this so-and-so did this. No, show me, right? I don't know, when I see little blurbs and paragraphs on screen in movies, I get the sense of the director got to a point where they just said, screw it. People get the gist, let's just throw it up on the screen and have them read it and be done with it. I feel like it's a very lazy way to end a movie. That's my opinion. I also, like I said with Gretchen's dad, I didn't give a shit about some of the characters that they gave wrap-ups for. Why did I need a wrap-up for Wallace Stoney? He wasn't half the character in the movie that he was in the book. I don't care that Wallace ended up being a loser in the movie, you know? There's no consequence to that to me. And I didn't know where to say this, so I'm kind of throwing it on the end. I don't want to completely knock the cinematography, because I can see there was some creative liberties taken, but I'm gonna say it again. I just wanted more. A lot of shots felt stale, like it was the obvious choice to make, and that's me slipping into movie critic mode. But I will say, I'm gonna point out these shots in particular of Abby walking to the closet when they were doing the Ouija board at the beginning of the movie. I could call for like each shot. I knew what shot they were gonna use before they even used it. And I feel like that's not really a good sign in a movie. I think you should be involved and entranced in the movie the first time you watch it. You shouldn't even be focused on the camera work or the cinematography. And that's another thing. I only watched this movie one time. I didn't need to watch it another time to get like my thoughts together. My thoughts were already together after I watched the first time, because it gave me plenty of time for me to gather my thoughts while watching the movie, because a lot of it was just exposition that I already knew because I read the book. This movie takes all of the heart, comedy, horror, and relationships out of My Best Friend's Exorcism, the book, and turns it into this PG knockoff version of Jennifer's Body that I was just not a fan of. I don't think the world needed that. I don't know why this movie had an R rating. I could be remembering that wrong, but I think it had an R rating. And when I first saw that, I was really excited because I thought they were going to go in on the gory details, the gross out stuff, but that's not the case. I don't know where that R rating went to. Nothing in the movie was like, I would show this movie to my 11-year-old cousin. Nothing in this movie was R rated worthy, you know? Maybe there was just like a stupid thing that I don't remember, but this movie just felt hollow. Like I want to scrub my eyes out. I'm gonna go reread the book to remember the good times I had before watching this movie. Kisses.